Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Polity Quick Revision series. So now that we've covered the chapter on precedent in great detail in the previous few videos, now let's try to test ourselves by taking a look at some important and interesting questions from this particular topic. So without any further delay, let's get started.
Take a look at this question. The President nominates 12 members of the Rajya Sabha on the advice of the Council of Ministers. The President has absolute power to appoint and remove the chairman and the members of statutory bodies at his discretion. Okay, what are statutory bodies? Statutory bodies are those bodies that have been formed on the basis. What is statutory, guys?
By law.
Yeah, based on an act. Okay, based on an act. Excellent. Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is the one. So what would be the choice? Will it be only A, only B, both A and B, or neither? Again, go with the process of elimination. Try to see if you can eliminate anything. If you cannot eliminate it, then it's possibly the answer.
B can be eliminated, sir.
Why would you eliminate B, Sangeeta?
Because we know that first point is correct.
Yeah, no, that is fine. So basically, the first step, you try to look at what can you eliminate. This is something that I'm now going to be able to eliminate. Okay, so possibly the answer. But this I could eliminate. If I can eliminate this, why am I eliminating this? Because absolute power. Does the president have absolute power? The president derives most of the power from the Council of Ministers. Okay, it is whatever his actions are, right? Whatever the actions are, and that we will see that a little more in detail further in this lecture, today's lecture itself. I'm guessing today's lecture itself, right? It is based on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Why so? Because there are certain articles that says that the president has to sort of exercise his powers according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, right? So that there are no two different heads, there are no two different sort of decision makers. So one is a de facto sort of a head and the other one is a de jure, or one is the the actual head and the other one is more of a titular sort of a leader. Now, if I say there is no such thing as absolute power, I can eliminate this. So what do? So 2 cannot be part of the answer, C cannot be part of the answer. And then I have to go, okay, so this I'm not going to be able to eliminate. So I'm left with either A or D, right? But I'm going for A. Okay, because this is correct. Where is this? Okay, so then we go with A. Okay, so remember, there is no such thing as absolute power. All are about checks and balances. Checks and balances. See, generally, a lot of students say that, you can take, polity has some logic to it. Okay, now that is true. Polity has some logic to it, right? But when you look at the UPSC questions, there are some questions, right? 20% easy, 60%, 60, 70% will be moderate. There'll be some that are difficult. Some other questions, sometimes you feel like they're sort of trying to get you, they're coaxing you, cajoling you to sort of choose an option, which seems very logical, but possibly it is incorrect. So don't always just think that, if you use your logic, every answer is right. The best way to go about this is be extremely familiar with each and every sort of a line from important topics in your Laxmikanth. If that is the case, you will remember, hey, it doesn't seem like I've ever read this sentence. If it is not there in Laxmikanth and you've not read this sentence, you can actually go ahead and sort of cancel it off. Okay, especially when it comes to the powers, okay, and their functions, right? It generally works. The only time you want to be a little more careful is when you're talking about interpretation. Do you think something like this will be the fundamental rights? Okay, will it be under fundamental duties, a little bit under DPSP? So those sort of elements, just think that I have to think broadly, even if I've not read the exact text. For instance, Article 21 may almost a lot of things come under your Article 21 in liberty, right? In your Article 21, a lot of things come under your liberty. So for instance, right to speedy trial, right to against handcuffing, right? Right against delayed execution, right to travel abroad, right against bonded labor, Okay, not to be driven out of the state, right to a fair trial, right to information, right against public hanging. In fact, recently after the Puttaswamy case, what is Puttaswamy case? Do you guys know? I think it's 2017 exact year, but in and around this time period. Not sure, you'll have to check, but I think it's 2017. And this is about right to privacy. Right to privacy is also your fundamental right. Right, so always think a little broadly when it comes to those topics. The rest of it, functions, features, powers. If you remember it in Laxmikanth and if you've read really well, trust your gut instinct. Okay, I have not read it means go ahead and you can eliminate it. Okay, next question. Consider the following statements. On the expiry of the term of 5 years by the President of India. So the President has finished his term or her term. Right, the outgoing president must continue to hold office until his successor or her successor enters upon his or her office. Point number one. Point number two, the electoral college for the president's election consists of the elected members of the legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry also. Again, generally options are
both 1 and 2.
Both 1 and 2. So, so that was Aishwarya, and I'm guessing that was, is that Sangeeta?
Manvi, so.
Manvi, okay, Manvi. Okay, hello, Manvi. Okay, why do you say this? So you've read this. So you're going with the same. If I want to go about solving this process of elimination, do I find anything that is easy to eliminate? No, I don't have any elimination, right? So this also seems to be right. This also seems to be right. Okay, and this is something that both of them are generally given in your Laxmikanth. Okay, and in fact, this one we have even discussed it yesterday, right? So we have discussed this yesterday. So the option is C. Both of you spoken brightly. Now, if I ask you, the electoral college consists of, for the president, of course, consists of elected members of legislative assemblies and members of parliament only. Now our question is true or false?
False.
Oops. Okay, so I hear false. Did two people tell me false? Are you saying, why did you say false?
Electoral college also consists of elected members of legislative assemblies in Delhi and Puducherry.
So I mentioned legislative assemblies. Okay, fine. So if you felt it has to be mentioned again, so legislative assemblies of your two union territories, okay, which is your Delhi and Pondicherry or Puducherry. Okay, so the answer is not, okay, the answer, whatever it is, depending upon what it is. Okay, for this one, now it is going to be true. Okay. So people nominated to a state's legislative assembly. Okay. Nominated to your state's legislative assembly or nominated to your Rajya Sabha. Do you guys know Sachin Tendulkar? You know, he was nominated to Rajya Sabha, or Subramanian Swamy, right? These are some prominent terms. Can they vote?
No, sir.
Okay, so good. So you have crystal clarity on this. Okay, perfect. Next question. Which of the following statement is correct? The Chief Election Commissioner of India holds his office during the pleasure of the President. The Governor of the state holds his office during the pleasure of the President. The Prime Minister can only be removed by a resolution passed by both houses of the Parliament. The Speaker of the Lok Sabha can be removed at the pleasure of the President. Try to go with a little bit of process of elimination, try to see what are the options you're left with, and then try to take a educated guess. If you're not able to solve it, okay, use some logic. But this is a straightforward question. With better reading, especially once we cover your Parliament chapter, you should be like thorough, or you'll be very clear with the answer. No? No one? Take a guess.
Option C.
C. Okay.
Option A.
So I see A. Okay, then I see C. Anybody else? Okay, let's take a look at this. The Chief Election Commissioner of India holds the office during the pleasure of the President. Okay, so that is one sort of a choice that you guys have gone for. And the second one is the Prime Minister can only be removed by a resolution passed by both houses of the Parliament. Do you know how the Prime Minister is sort of removed? What if, let us say, the opposition parties and certain other parties, they try to call for a no confidence motion? If you go for a no confidence motion, and let us say that the confidence motion has been, and you had requisite number of votes, that could result in the government falling. Okay, similarly, you have another sort of a motion, which is called the censure motion. Okay, now that is bad. It is bad news, but it does not mean, so it censures the Council of Ministers for, certain omissions, commissions and whatnot. But even if it is passed in the Lok Sabha, the Council of Ministers need not resign from the office. But if the no confidence motion is passed, okay, the entire Council of Ministers must resign from your office. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So meaning what? The ministry, including your Prime Minister, they stay in the office only as long as they enjoy the confidence of the majority of the members of your Lok Sabha. Okay, the Prime Minister, regardless of where he is from, responsible to Lok Sabha. Okay, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Okay, they're responsible to House of the People. Do you know any president who was not from Lok Sabha?
Manmohan.
Yeah, Manmohan Singh, excellent. Okay, good. That is, I'm happy to hear that. Manmohan Singh. Okay, so he was from Rajya Sabha. And where did he get voted in from? Which state? Quota of Rajya Sabha? Okay, it was from Assam. Okay, now what if the Chief Election Commissioner of India, okay, this person is responsible for all the elections, the free and fair elections. Okay, the person who is interested with, conducting free and fair sort of elections. Okay, if we don't have free and fair elections, what happens? Our electorate, our people will not have any faith in the democracy. Okay, why should I go and vote? Right? Regardless of what I go and vote, okay, it is only going to be this political party in power. If I don't go and vote, even in local elections, it could be that there is booth capturing, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Because, for instance, recently you had Bengal elections, and Bengal elections time, you generally see deaths before and like post elections. Are you guys aware of this? Bengal mein, there is election time related violence will be there. Okay, if this person is in charge of holding, ensuring that there are free and fair elections. okay, with a certain amount of power that is given to ensure that the elections are free and fair. Now, this person, what if that person is, holding office only during the pleasure of the president? When I say pleasure of the president, what does that mean? It is a pleasure of the Council of Ministers. If the Council of Ministers can remove this chief election commissioner, can this person really be an independent person who has a duty of conducting free and fair elections? No. Okay, so this person should not be during the pleasure of the president. But however, the governor of the state, he holds his office during the pleasure of the president. The governor is a appointee. Generally what happens when a new, let us say that, a new sort of a central government comes into place, what they generally do is the state governors who've been appointed by the previous government will generally resign because they've been appointed by the previous government. And the new government will decide to place some newer faces. And it could be people who've actually served in that party. Okay, they've been chief ministers before, or somebody to do with this particular party. Okay, not always, but generally it is the case. Okay. Yeah, and the Speaker of the Lok Sabha can be removed by the pleasure of the President. No, I mean, there are certain, again, we'll see that in Parliament chapter. The answer is your B. Okay, Boppe. B for Boppe. Okay, that was a tough one, I guess. Okay, so that tells me that when there are questions that are slightly, from multiple chapters, okay, related to multiple chapters, then it's taking a little bit of time, which is, it is natural. Okay, nothing to worry. Okay, which of the following statement is correct? Okay, now again, this, while it is about the president, okay, contingency fund is also talked about in the chapter of Parliament. Okay, the money can be advanced out of the contingency fund to meet unforeseen expenditure. And how is it done? Is it by the president? Is it by the finance minister? Is it by the prime minister? Or is it by the parliament?
President.
It is by the president. Is it because president chapter we are discussing?
Finance Minister.
Finance minister seems like a logical sort of an option, right? Yeah, right. But the answer is president. It is the president's duty. And in fact, in that parliament chapter, it mentions this clearly. And I guess I've not added that slide here. See, here's what happens. There is something called, your Consolidated Fund of India. Then you have something called the Contingency Fund of India, right? The Contingency Fund, it is actually held on behalf of the president by somebody else. Okay, the president doesn't, generally manage it like, by himself. It is sort of held on behalf of the president by the secretary on behalf of the president. I'm going to ask you this question when we do parliament as well. So you ought to remember, on behalf of the president by secretary to Government of India in Ministry of Finance. But even if this advance is sort of made, it is still pending authorization of such expenditures by the parliament. And how does the parliament authorize it? Okay, appropriation through appropriations made by law. So it does not mean the Council of Ministers can, release fund out of, or, the Council of Ministers through the President can sort of release fund or advance funds out of Contingency Fund of India without any sort of accountability. It has to still be approved by the Parliament. Now, just think about this. We talk about this concept of checks and balances, right? We talk about this concept of checks and balances. So when I say Consolidated Fund of India, when we say Consolidated Fund of India, and the money sort of advanced from the Consolidated Fund of India, what happens? So Consolidated Fund of India, okay, let us say president releases this. That means, president on behalf, so let's say the secretary, Secretary of Ministry of Finance. So that means your president, and that actually means your council of ministers. Now, is this your executive? Is it your legislature, or is this your judiciary? Executive, doing a particular sort of one of their actions, it has to be held to account. And who holds them accountable? It is your legislature. Who is the legislature? The parliament. Is this concept clear, or do you want me to explain this once again?
Clear, sir.
It is clear. Okay, great. Another question. Which of the following is a correct statement about the President of India? He can address both the houses of the parliament, he can summon the houses of the parliament, and he can send messages to either house of the parliament. That is your option A. Option B, he can summon the house of the parliament, cannot be sending messages to, the houses of the parliament. He can send messages to either house of the parliament, but cannot be summoning the houses of the parliament. He cannot send messages to either house of the parliament, or neither can he summon the houses of the parliament. That is somebody else's responsibility. Which of these is correct?
Option A.
Option A.
And what did the other person say? Manvi, what did you say? Did you say A?
Yes, sir.
And Aishwarya?
A, sir.
Okay, so this is also very clear. See, so the president has certain powers. One thing is he can summon the house, he can send messages, and he can address both the houses of the parliament, especially on certain days. Okay, so that is your A. Okay, clear, great. The President of India can be a member of parliament, is part of parliament, sorry, can stand for election for more than 2 terms, presides over joint sittings of both the houses of parliaments.
Option B.
So the president is part of parliament, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so who's part of parliament? Parliament consists of
Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and President.
Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and President. Okay, now this could be a trick question. Okay, because the president is part of your executive, right? Technically, the president is part of the executive. But however, we are talking about the parliament, and the parliament is part of your legislature. And despite that, when we talk about parliament, there is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and president. And there is a reason for this. Can somebody tell me the reason for this? Legislature's duty is to ensure that bills get converted into acts after dialogues and debates and discussions. But a bill has to be passed by your Lok Sabha, it has to be passed by your Rajya Sabha, and then finally you need president's assent, and only then you can get it to become an act. So the president has multiple roles. So in that President's chapter, you will notice that there are when they talk about the powers of the president, they talk about the executive powers of the president. This is, if you go to Parliament chapter, it is on the 8th, sorry, the President's chapter, you will see on the page number 8, powers and functions of the president. In that they talk about the executive powers of the president, they talk about the legislative powers of the president, they talk about the financial powers, the judicial powers, the diplomatic powers, military powers, and emergency powers. Very, very well sort of broken up and very well sort of organized answer. So do not think that, okay, he's part of the executive. He has multiple roles: executive roles, legislative roles, financial powers, judicial powers, right? Diplomatic, military, and a big role during emergencies as well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I mean, I'm sure you would know this, but think of the reason for it. Okay, so that is a little more important because you can apply a little bit of logic. So the parliament is the supreme legislative body. The Indian parliament comprises of the president and the 2 houses, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, and the president has certain roles. If you go to that legislative power, you will see he has the power to summon, he has the power to, summon a joint sitting, right? He has the power to address the parliament, especially during the commencement of the first session after each general election. Okay, and each year, the very first session, you will have the president's address. He can send messages to the houses like we saw in the previous one. He can appoint members of the Lok Sabha, right? A speaker, deputy speaker, when it is vacant, he can sort of appoint any member to preside over the proceedings. So things like that. In fact, he has like power to nominate. So 12 members. nomination. So there are many such aspects here. So if I change this one particular option to any of those legislative powers options, you should still be very clear that, okay, yes, this option is there. It is part of legislative powers. Okay. And in fact, if you're very, very good, you'll probably be able to tell how many legislative powers are there. Okay. And which are the ones that he has. Okay. So what are the president's powers vis-a-vis? And this is slightly difficult. Okay. What are the legislative powers of the president for making regulations for peace and progress? Okay, in Andaman and Nicobar, in Lakshadweep, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Daman Diu. Okay, and what are the sort of powers when it comes to Puducherry? Right, there are some tricky aspects as well. So just go through those. Okay,
Sir?
it is all, yeah, go ahead.
Sir, once again, can you please explain all the options?
Okay, let's come back to the question. Okay, you want me to explain these, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. The President of India can be a member of parliament. What is a member of parliament? Or let's say an MP. So this is my Lok Sabha. In my Lok Sabha, I have the seats here. This is your opposition seats. This is your, let us say, the government seats. This is generally the opposition, and this is generally the government. And here you have, you must have seen, right? If you go to Lok Sabha channel or Rajya Sabha channel, you'll be able to see, and you have the speaker sitting here. In the same thing, if we talk about Rajya Sabha, you will have the vice president or the chosen deputy speaker, or the it's called the deputy chairman, right? And then again, you have the opposition seats and you have the government seats. Okay, now these are the members who are the part of the legislature. Okay, they are supposed to debate and discuss and go for the first reading, second reading, third reading. These are members of parliament. Members of parliament, if they are Lok Sabha, they are elected. If they are Rajya Sabha, okay, you guys know Rajya Sabha. How exactly is the nomination process? How exactly are the how exactly are they appointed? 6 years and all of that. Okay, so he's not a member of parliament. Okay, he is not a member of parliament. For instance, I'll give you an example. Pranab Mukherjee was a member of parliament from somewhere in Kolkata. Okay, one of those Kolkata constituencies. But when he became a president, right, at that time he resigns from the Lok Sabha and then chooses to become the president. Second option is, okay, let's give the second option. We know that is right. Cannot stand for election for more than 2 terms. The president cannot stand for more than 2 terms. Can you tell me in which country this statement would be true?
USA?
In USA, excellent. Okay, so in USA, the president not more than 2 terms. But India, we do not have that. Okay, we don't have any sort of such rules. But however, each government, when they're formed, they tend to choose, do you want to continue with the same guy, or if it really depends. Okay, in India, it really depends. You don't have anybody who's been the president for a very, very long term. In fact, I thought do you guys know about APJ Abdul Kalam, right? He could have been there for the second session, and then he said that if I've done my job, you guys know how I do it. If all the members are sort of okay with this and it's going to be a unanimous decision, I'll probably go ahead with it. Okay, but again, if it has to go through elections and all of that, then possibly let me just retire. Okay, APJ Abdul Kalam, again presiding over the joint sittings of both houses of parliament, right? Presiding over both the joint sittings of the parliament. Can you tell me who presides over the joint sittings of the parliament?
The Speaker of Lok Sabha.
It is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Okay, excellent, Manvi. Whose question was this? I think it was Aishwarya or Sangeeta, I guess.
Sangeeta, sir.
Sangeeta, right? Sangeeta, now do you understand?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Now, this question, the way we did this thing is very, very useful, because this is how you sort of solve your prelims questions, your mock questions, right? So as you solve many questions, don't just look at what is the answer. Also try to say, why did you eliminate this? Why is this wrong? Why is this wrong? So from each question, potentially you can learn 4 more things that can come in handy. Because in your exam, even if you get a chance of removing one option, you're still much better off, right? Rather than getting a 25%. So if you just randomly guess, you have a probability of getting 25% right. The question is 25% right, meaning if 4 such random guesses, you could get 1 right. But let us say in all of those, you're able to eliminate at least 1 option. So your chances of getting that right has become 33%. If you can remove 2 options, your chances of getting that right becomes 50%. So let us say I have 10 questions. Okay, and in these 10 questions, I don't know the real final answer, but I have been able to break it down into two options, or I have eliminated 2 options each. So how, like, what are the chances? What will be my score if I go ahead for the guesses? So that means if I have 50% chance, so 2 eliminations. If I have 2 eliminations for each question, so 50% chance. So 50% chance means I'm going to get 5 right and 5 wrong. 5 right is going to give me 10 marks, and 5 wrong is going to give me, what is it, 3.33? Right? So what is my net score? I'm going to still be getting 6.67 or around 7 marks. Does that make sense? And so each and every one of these options is something you can learn from. Okay, so if you go through 100 questions, you could possibly take a look at least, you know, around 400 new things. Okay, a lot of which you already know, but some of these things can be new to you. So that's a good way to go about this. Okay, so thanks, Sangeeta, for asking that question. Let's look at this. Okay, as per the provisions of the Constitution of India, who makes the rules for more convenient business of transaction of the business of the government of India? Okay, and for allocation among the ministers of the said business. So who makes the rules for more convenient transaction of business, okay, for the government of India? Is it the president or should it be the speaker?
So all the important transactions have been taken place in the name of the president. So will it be president?
Okay, so basically you're saying executive actions of the government of India are formally taken in his name. That is what you're referring to, right? So,
Yes, sir.
okay. So let's put all executive actions of the GOI are formally taken in president's name. Okay, that is true. Okay, that is true. But the rules of transaction of business, like how exactly to operate within the parliament, you know, those sort of aspects. Go to a president's chapter and please open executive powers, which comes in as the first the division of powers. First section. In that, go and take a look at C. He can make rules for more convenient transaction of business of the union government and allocation of the said business amongst the ministers. Right? So all of these things generally are going to be direct lines from your Laxmikanth. So that's why I say, that familiarity with each and every sort of a line. So it does not mean that you don't understand the president's chapter, but there are some fine sort of details that is, you know, so in heaps of sort of data, some small sort of needles you might leave off. But try to ensure that, you know, a needle in a haystack also within your Laxmikanth book, right? Try to be so thorough with this thing that if you take a look at this, you should be familiar with it. Hey, wait, I have actually seen something like this in the president's chapter. Right? Because it cannot be in the speaker's chapter because the speaker does not have a separate chapter, right? So it has been in executive powers of somebody, and the only person I've studied executive powers separately is my president of India. That means this is going to be my president. Okay, and that is a good way to sort of, you know, be able to assure yourself that so these will be one of those questions that are, you know, relatively on the moderate to difficult side. Okay, let us say that, you know, because you must have read the chapter so many times, but you know, this small little thing you may forget. Okay, you may have, you know, overlooked. This might have been one of those lines that you have not highlighted or underlined, right? And if you have done this well, okay, you can get that extra. Okay, extra 1, 2, 3 sort of questions. 3 questions are going to get you 8 marks. That could be the difference between, you know, getting selection or, you know, sort of being in the border. It could be like, you know, well away from the border, you know, negatively. Okay, it could also be well above the border. Okay, so both. Okay, so that is right. So in executive powers, he can, point number 3, he can make rules for more convenient business. Okay, all there in your Laxmikanth. So the point is, I have not introduced anything new. All I'm trying to do is try to show you that the concepts are already there and it's all in the book. So the more you read, the better off you will be. And it does not come in the first reading. Okay, that part I can assure you. It takes time, subsequent revisions, and generally more frequent revisions. How often do you revise a subject that you have studied? Generally, let's say Manvi, Aishwarya.
I revise usually on Sundays. So.
Okay. See, generally, this is, and I'm guessing this is Aishwarya. Okay. Anybody else? This is how our memory works. Okay, but you know, this is not our mandate. My thing is to talk about polity, right? But I'll just give you a quick sort of a very, very useful tip. Our memory, this is how it happens. In fact, and you know, the first time I read about this, we were told is that during university, okay, they teach you very good study habits, and you know, you can attend some, you know, some sort of electives, or you know, good study habits itself will be a course in which, you know, you will be taught how to do things better, right? So for instance, this is the content, okay, in your memory, and this is your let's say hours. What happens is, as soon as you leave the class, you have forgotten 50% of what you have heard. And it makes a lot of sense because the professor seems to be speaking about it. Okay, and it is like always, yes, yes, yes. But if you have to sort of summarize that lecture, or even be able to reproduce 10% of that lecture, okay, or at least be able to speak on that lecture for 10 minutes out of, let us say, 1 hour, you will still find it difficult. So what generally happens is, you know, within the first, and in 24 hours, you lose, like, you know, you come to like some 33% or something like that. Okay, so what generally happens is that there's a system called spaced repetition, okay, or frequent revision. So what happens is, the best way to go about doing these things is that more frequent revisions. So if it's coming down, it is brought up here. Okay, another revision. So what happens is, you know, the chances of you keeping this at this level is higher. Now what happens in this one, the first revision takes you probably, let us say it has taken you 1 hour. This will probably take you half hour. This will probably take you 15 minutes. The next one is probably going to take you, in fact, finally it is going to be in like 30 seconds you will be done. At the same time, if you revise it only after a month or something like that, you will have to spend, in terms of number of hours that you spend, you might have to spend like, you know, 5 to 10 times more sort of hours in it. You know, one of the reasons why I see a lot of really sort of good students struggle is not because they're not studying. Everybody studies here. Okay, so some of the students that I've seen, you know, they are very hardworking. Okay, they have good work ethic, but people say study, 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 study. You know, family, your friends, your well-wishers, and all of that, but they do not teach you how to study. How to study, may there are many things in your study habits that, you know, you can learn. So the same number of hours that you spend, so let us say even if you're studying only 6 hours per day instead of 16 hours per day, okay, but if you do the right thing in the right ways, your output is going to be lot better. I used to have this thing that, you know, the first few things that I do as soon as I wake up are going to be only revision. And the reason is, in revision I'll be able to cover like 40, 50, 60 pages, and I feel good for the rest of the day, right? And I used to generally have a full-time job. Okay, I had a corporate job, so, you know, I could not focus a lot more later, but, you know, it at least gave me that confidence that, okay, I've revised a lot, so whatever I knew really well. right? And my focus was on accuracy. And because I did a lot of revisions, my accuracy used to be very good. Generally, the number of wrongs is, it used to be only around single digits. Okay. In fact, one of my attempts, I had only 2 to 3. Okay. And that is because of these methods. Okay. I always revise. I do not wait for, and I don't want to revise at the end of the day, because once I start with a big chunk of new things to study, I'm like, yaar, kuch bhi nahi pata hai. Okay, I've not studied anything. Like, how can I afford to revise? So I always start with revision in the day. So it feels like I've done quite a bit. And when I'm studying some new stuff, it is okay because I've already accomplished a good chunk, 3 chapters of my environment, 2 chapters of my polity, half an hour of my history, something like that. Okay, so I hope that is sort of useful to you. Try to see if you can employ this. Try to, invest a good amount of time every single day to just revise whatever you know. And when I say revise, you might think that, okay, I've not done it. Like, what can I revise? Okay, that is natural. Even we've all gone through the same thing. But if you can go back and revise your salient features table, if you can go back and revise your president chapter, your governor chapter, if you can go back and revise all of the chapters that we've just seen, you will still realize that 10% of it is something that you're forgetting. 20% in this particular chapter you're forgetting. So if you do this, at least you can be assured that the important chapters in your polity you're never going to forget until your exam. Okay, so just try that. Okay, it's one of the most useful tips that I can, in my opinion, that I can give you. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So which one of the following proposition is a correct description of the powers of the President of India under Article 368 of the Constitution? Sorry, this is which one of the following statements of the executive powers of the President is incorrect? Okay, just notice this. Okay, it is about what is incorrect. All important appointments are made by the President on the advice of the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister, that is option B, the Prime Minister of and all Union Ministers are appointed by the President. The President has absolute power. Okay, the President has absolute power to appoint and remove the chairman and members of the statutory bodies at his discretion or her discretion. The President is the supreme commander of the armed forces. Answer no.
Option C.
Option C.
Why did you go with option C? What really struck you?
Absolute power.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so that's what I want you to keep your mind on. Why so? Because it is all based on, if you have absolute power, then you don't have checks and balances. And checks and balances are important in our democracy to ensure that, if somebody goes wrong, somebody else is there to sort of correct it. Okay, excellent. Okay, you're looking out for the right things. Consider the following statements, guys. Okay, if a bill other than the money bill is returned by the President for the reconsideration of the Houses, and the bill is again passed by the Houses of Parliament with or without amendments, and again presented to the President, then also it is not obligatory upon him to declare his assent to it. Okay, now when I say other than money bill, why do they mention other than money bill is returned? Why not money bill?
Because money bill cannot be returned.
Money bill cannot be returned. Wonderful, Manvi. So we are talking necessarily of, what is the bill that is other than a money bill?
Ordinary bill.
Ordinary bill, perfect. So we are talking about ordinary bill. An ordinary bill is returned by the President for the reconsideration of the Houses. Okay, and the bill is again passed by the Houses of Parliament with or without amendments. Okay, and again presented to the President. Is it obligatory upon him to declare his assent to it? Okay, they are saying in the option that it is not obligatory. Okay, okay. Option number 2, a bill for the purpose of the formation of new states and alteration of areas, okay, boundaries or names of existing states can be introduced in either house of the Parliament, and no recommendation of the President is required. So the key words here is that no recommendation of the President is required.
Recommendation is required.
Recommendation is required. So no recommendation is required means this is incorrect. Would you say this is wrong? You will eliminate this option?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what about your option number 1?
So neither 1 or 2. Option D.
Option D, neither 1 or 2. Now see, you knew this. Okay, great. But this is mentioned in, what is your chapter number 5? In your Laxmikanth?
Union and its territory.
Union and its territories. Can you go to chapter number 5 page number 5.2? In that you have a heading named Parliament's power to reorganize the states. Article 3 authorizes the Parliament to form a new state by separation of territory from a state, increase the area of any state, diminish the area of any state, alter the boundaries of any state, alter the name of any state. Okay, so we're talking about Article 3. So however, it mentions Article 3 lays down 2 conditions explicitly. One, the bill contemplating the above changes that we talk about, A to E, can be introduced in the Parliament only with the prior recommendation of the President. Okay, and second option is that before recommending the bill, the President has to refer the same to the state legislature concerned for expressing its view within a specified time period. Okay, does that sort of make sense? Now, regardless of what the state legislature chooses to do they accept them, do they not accept them, what is their view? Okay, the President is not bound by the views of the state legislature. If you remember when Telangana was sort of cleaved away from Andhra Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, every single person in Andhra Pradesh wanted to ensure that the state did not sort of get divided, right? But it did not matter. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect. Which one of the following is correct? The President may continue to be a member of the Parliament even after assuming charge of the presidential office. When you have situations like this, try to go back to Honorable former President Pranab Mukherjee, right? And just think about what happened. The President is not barred from holding any other office of profit, okay? Any other sort of office of profit, even after assuming charge of presidential office. So if you're holding a office of profit along with President's office, so what is it? President's office job is, it's like a part-time job for you, okay? The President is entitled to use his official residence only on payment of the rent fixed. The emoluments and the allowances of the President shall not be diminished during the term of his office.
Option D.
Option A.
D for Delhi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, option D is Delhi. Okay, but generally you will not have an option like this. This seems like a silly sort of an option. Okay, it doesn't pack a lot of weight. Okay, easy to sort of eliminate. Okay, so he cannot be. So just go with elimination and eliminate, and then whatever is left is your answer. And by the way, can I ask you, do you feel like you're getting 80% right so far? Or are you at least close to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're getting it right. So that is good. So President's chapter, if there are questions, you ought to be able to do it. And similarly, every single topic that we cover from here, you should ensure that 80-90% of the questions you're able to get right. Okay, but the kind of questions that I give you, I don't have extremely difficult sort of a question. Okay, because I want you to pretty much solve the easy and the medium sort of questions. What is directly given in your Laxmikanth? Be able to develop that familiarity with the topics. So you should probably try to get even 100% right. Okay, and if you've gotten one question wrong, just note it down. What was the topic? Which page of your Laxmikanth is it from? Okay, read a chapter, read one page before that, read that page, and read one page after that. Okay, and that can also be added as part of your revision exercise. Is that clear? Okay, so that is that. So which one of the following is not a constitutional prerogative of the President of India? Returning a legislative bill for reconsideration, returning a money bill for reconsideration, dissolving the Lok Sabha, summoning the Rajya Sabha. Can the President... Yeah, go ahead.
Returning money bill for reconsideration.
Okay, Ashwarya, I guess. My question is, how about we eliminate? Okay, let's go with elimination. Okay, the answer is right, by the way. But can you tell me the other options? Can you return any ordinary bill for reconsideration? Yes. that option is always there. And if that bill is sent back to the president, what are the options the president has?
He has to
He
give
has to
us
give his assent.
withhold his assent.
Reconsidered by Parliament. Simple majority, same sort of majority. Now what happens? By the Parliament, not by the state. If the bill has been passed after reconsideration by the Parliament with or without amendments, you said that he can withhold this. We can accept and withhold. Did somebody say withhold?
Yes, sir.
No. Okay. Reconsidered by Parliament. So okay. So this is what it is. Parliament. Okay. And then it goes to the President. The President sends it for reconsideration. And then after reconsideration, they send it back to the President. Same form, some amendments. The President during the second round has to accept. And when I say has to accept, it is going to be the President has to give assent. Okay, now this is something that we had discussed yesterday, but again, these are the tricky parts. So if you go to your chapter, page number 10, okay, page number 10 of your President's chapter, come to your legislative powers. In that, point number I. Okay, point number I. Can you see that point number I, guys? When a bill is sent to the President, after it has been passed by the Parliament, he can give assent, he can withhold his assent, and then he can return the bill so long as it is not a money bill for, okay, so for the reconsideration of the Parliament. Now, however, if the bill is passed again by the Parliament with or without amendments, the President has to give assent to the bill. Is that clear? So is that clear why it is he has to give assent? Aishwarya?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, now what if this is not your Parliament, but this was your state legislature? Instead of Parliament, what if it was state legislature? The state legislature reserved by the governor for the president. The president takes a look at this and then he's sending it for reconsideration. The state legislature passes it again. What are the options the president has?
He can even
We have to accept it.
So somebody said he has to accept it, and somebody said, what is the other option that somebody had picked?
he can even withhold, sir.
Accept or withhold. Okay. So these are what you guys are saying. Now let's look at what is the right answer. So after I go to the point number J, the 10th point of the legislative powers. Okay, and I'm going to read directly from your Laxmikanth. When a bill is passed by the state legislature and is reserved by the governor for the consideration of the president can, option number A or option number 1, he can give assent to the bill or he can withhold assent to the bill. Okay, or he can direct the governor to return the bill as long as it is not a money bill for reconsideration of the state legislature. And here, and highlight this part, guys, please highlight this. It should be noted that it is not obligatory for the president to give his assent, even if the bill is again passed by the state legislature. Okay, and sent again to him for his consideration. So does that make sense? So, not obligatory. Answer is not obligatory. And just make this so that it is not confusing. State legislative. Okay, not obligatory for the president. Okay. When state legislature sends it again. Is that clear? So these are the tricky parts that you could possibly fall for. Okay, and how will the option be? The option will be pretty much in the same wording. return the bill if it is not a money bill for reconsideration of the parliament. Okay, if the bill is passed again by the parliament with or without amendments, the president has to give assent to the bill. Or if it is a state legislature, it is not obligatory for the president to give his assent even if the bill is again passed by the state legislature and sent again to him for consideration or reconsideration. Is that clear? So each of these things you can learn more. What about dissolving the Lok Sabha? Is that the president's job?
Yes, sir.
And why does he sort of do that?
On advice of Prime Minister, he can dissolve the Lok Sabha.
Okay. Okay, so I'm guessing that you guys know that, and if not, we'll discuss those sort of aspects in detail when we do either the Prime Minister's chapter or the Parliament chapter, right? And similarly, so on and so forth for state legislature and your chief minister. Okay, and similarly, summoning of the Rajya Sabha. Okay, and summoning of the Rajya Sabha. Okay, excellent. Okay, and I have the last few questions about the president, and I hope you're comfortable with the president. After this, I want to move on to governor. Okay, after this, we'll move on to governor. 1 or 2 questions more last. Okay, who among the following do not participate in the election of President of India?
Option D.
So did you guys know Vidhan Parishad means your legislative councils? Did you guys know this?
Yes.
Okay, great. And your final president chapter, a final president question. Notice it is which of the following is not correct regarding the executive powers of the president. So he must be kept informed of the prime minister, by the prime minister, of all the decisions of the cabinet. That is your option number A. He presides over the meetings of the council of ministers when he deems fit. Option number B. Option number C is he can ask the prime minister to submit a decision of any minister for the consideration of the council of ministers, meaning he's saying that, okay, the minister has chosen something, but I want the entire set of council of ministers, or holistically the council of ministers, please take a look at this once again. And then option D is he must be supplied with any sort of information about the administration of the country as or whatever he asks for or whatever he feels he needs.
Option B.
So he does not preside over the meetings of the council of ministers. So who presides over this?
The Prime Minister.
Always? Yes. Okay, fine. Okay, so that is your president's chapter. Now,
all right, guys, so that brings us to the close of our video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found the video to be useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the very next video.